Welcome back. In this interview, we are going to shed the light on the very important event, the grand opening at the Luxor city, the opening of the Rams Road, a very important event that shed the light on Egypt from all around the world. And today with our guest, Rana Ihab, we are delighted to know more about this event. Hello, Rana.
Hello.
And welcome to Nile Cruise.
Thank you so much.
Rana, let's start first with Luxor, this beautiful city. Of course, enriched with monuments, archaeological components. Tell us more about the beauty of the city.
Actually, if we're talking about Luxor, we need a few years to talk about how it's amazing, about the places, the structure inside Luxor, the temples, the tombs, everything is actually wonderful. So if we date it back to why it's called Luxor, for example, in ancient Egyptian sources, we mentioned Luxor city as Theban city or Theban necropolis. So from which it's called Theban, or why it's called Luxor. Actually, Theban appeared from the Middle Kingdom in ancient Egyptian history, and it started to become something amazing. It's in a very far place, and it has a wonderful nature. So it's called Theban from this point. And why it's called Luxor? After the opening of Islam civilization and entering Amr ibn al-As to Egypt. So when they entered Egypt for the Luxor for the first time, they saw the amazing and massive temples and tombs. So they called this place look like a palace. Palaces. So it's called Luxor or Qasr, which is divided from palace in Arabic language. So the city actually recorded in the World Heritage List in 1979, and in other places or in other UNESCO records, they just mentioned or record one place. For example, they record only a garden, or they record only one temple. But in case of Luxor, they recorded the whole necropolis. So that indicates us how this place is important, is amazing. Nothing in the world could be ancient and the beginning of the life like the city of Luxor.
Of course, this city is considered an open museum. Every place and every part of this city has a history that dates back thousands and thousands of years ago. If you speak about the Rams Road, a very important road, and it has a significance not only because it's 5,000 years ago dated back, but it also has another significance. Tell us more about the significance.
Actually, the avenue of the Sphinx is dated back to the importance of this route in ancient time. It's connected between Luxor Temple and Karnak Temple. This route used only once a time during the year, during the Abed festival. So this Abed festival is to renew the soul of God Amun, and also to coronate some kings in the lost ages. This festival lasted for 27 days. During all of this, the kings celebrate, the people celebrate Egyptian love, also their life as they loved or as they care about their nether life. So the coronation started for the god Amun, started to outing from the Karnak temple until it's reached to the hall or the main hall in the Luxor temple, around the park of Amun, which is going from this route. The singers, the priests, and also the acrobats is doing their singing and doing their moving to show the importance of this palace, or to show how the park of Amun is important in this point, front of all the people who can enter this place too. After the end of this procession, the park of the god Amun is going to the sacred hall or the Holy of Holies. Here is the final place for the god. They doing all the rituals for this festival, and what Egypt done during the celebration is the same thing what happened in the festival from 3,000 years ago.
Of course, we are going to talk about this important celebration, but let me ask you, this procession that takes place in this very important road, it's considered a religious procession. This is true?
Yes, it's a
Totally religious. It's not a festive procession. It's a
actually
religious.
it's both, because it's played an important role that for the king to renew his power, to show his people that he respects their minds, he respects their religious, and also in the same time around the road or around the avenue of the Sphinx we have chapels. The king take a rest, or the god Amun take a rest and do the chapels. Each chapel, when the park of Amun enter to this place, they started the sacrifice, the cows, the goats, everything they have. So from this point, they giving the sacrifice for the god. So the one who took those all of those things, the people. So it's something not completely religious. It's also for the people. And what makes this event is special, or this festival is special, because when they are doing this, they choose a particular time, which is the beginning of the flooding of the Nile River.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the king himself should attend this ceremony and procession.
yes, this is one of the most important things. The king walking with the bark of Amun, and the god Khonsu also, and the god Smooth, because all of this triad have this celebration for them.
Mm-hmm.
So the king, some kings like King Hur Muhib, for example, take this place or take this festival to renew his youth, to renew his coronation, to rule Egypt more than the period he spent on it.
Okay, let's talk about the grand opening and the important event of the Rams Road. How did you see this very great celebration?
Actually, from my point of view as an Egyptologist, as an heritage researcher, it's it have many lines. It shows the people how Egypt is amazing. It shows the heritage of Luxor, the heritage, intangible and the intangible heritage. It shows a lot of things, actually, because as I said, most of the tourists thought that Egypt is only a desert and the pyramids, maybe a temple,
Yeah.
but they didn't know how it's amazing and how it's a really wonderful place. So if we're talking, for example, about the heritage or tangible heritage, like I mentioned before, in the UNESCO. So all the places in the Luxor city is recorded in the UNESCO.
Mm-hmm.
The temples, the tombs, and the most important things that appeared in the show, the Hatshepsut Temple, Luxor Temple, Karnak II, and the Valley of the Kings. This is the most famous places, but in Luxor we have more than those temples. And if we're talking about the intangible, we saw the Al-Tahtib, which is also recorded recently in the UNESCO. It's amazing. It's showing the beginning of the opening. So to show the people, it's amazing to remember. Al-Tahtib, it's an Arabic word, but it's meaning the fighting between two men riding on their horses, and they have a very big stick. They start to fight with it. This is something from the heritage or from the ancient Egyptian time, but now we are doing that as a show only. So all the places in the Luxor city is recorded in the UNESCO. Mm-hmm. The temples, the tombs, and the most important things that appeared in the show, the Hatshepsut Temple, Luxor Temple, Karnak II, and the Valley of the Kings. Mm-hmm. This is the most famous places, but in Luxor we have more than those temples. And if we're talking about the intangible, we saw the Al-Tahtib, which is also recorded recently in the UNESCO. It's amazing. It's showing the beginning of the opening. So to show the people, it's amazing to remember. Al-Tahtib, it's an Arabic word, but it's meaning the fighting between two men riding on their horses, and they have a very big stick. they start to fight with it. This is something from the heritage or from the ancient Egyptian time, but now we are doing that as a show only. So this is our intangible heritage. It's important to tell the people that we have this history. This is our history. All the temples or the tombs talking about how Egypt is amazing. What is the story behind every scene in this place?
You know, as you said, some tourists, not all of them, whenever you ask them about Egypt, they say, oh, it's a desert. You don't only have the pyramids and the Sphinx. They don't know the whole picture. Of course, this important event gives a glimpse of what Egypt has on its land. This celebration, how far has an impact on tourism, of course, as an Egyptologist?
Yes, actually, before 2 days, we can say yes, it will be affect very good in the Egyptian tourism during next days, but actually it happened now. If we look at the mass tourism and the sites now, we cannot believe that, especially after the corona pandemic, all the people being afraid to go to the archaeological site because maybe it's not being with the rules of the coronavirus, but actually the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities doing its effort to do everything in perfect way. So Egypt now is the safest place you can visit, and you can also enjoy with visiting, listening to the history, listening to the everything. Maybe you didn't like the cultural tourism. Actually, we have everything, especially too in Luxor. If you don't like, you can take a cruise on the Nile. You can go to the desert and doing safari, for example. You have everything you want to do in Luxor city.
Rana, of course, Luxor has the important Rams Road, but it also has other important places. Can you tell us about these places?
Like the places we have, for example, we have the Luxor Temple. Luxor Temple, in the facade, on the pylon of the Luxor Temple, we have one of the most important military campaigns, which is Megiddo, under the attack of under the leadership of the king Thutmose III. From this point, or from this military campaign, Egypt become empire, not only a kingdom. We have the Valley of the Kings, Tutankhamun tomb, Ramses III, Ramses II, also the most important kings during the history of Egypt. Their tombs is there. Actually, it's not important because it's only the tomb of the king, but the information we gained from these places is very, very important. We know how the ancient Egyptians thought about their nether life, if they believe there is another life after death or not. They're telling us about how they lived their life. Some people said no, the ancient Egyptians only care about their life after death, but this is completely wrong, because if they did not, why they inscribed for us how they are living, their titles and their titles in the Egypt,
their normal life every day, the daily life. Yeah.
Exactly what they are doing. The family, with the family, what they're doing with their family, why they care, a lot of things. It's talking about the history of Egypt, not only the tombs, because sometimes it's related to dead. No, it's not.
You know, Rana, in Luxor Temple, I saw a lovely picture about how they slaughter a cow. There's a technique in slaughtering the cow in order not to allow the cow to feel any kind of pain. As if they're giving her an injection or something to do not feel the pain. So this is a kind of science.
Yes,
they have.
Exactly. Also, we are talking about Luxor and Karnak. Karnak Temple have one of the most amazing and masterpieces, not only in Egypt, in the whole world. It's called the Zodiac. The Zodiac is something related to the astronomy field. So they notice they doing the sky map on the ceiling of the temple. So how they arrive to this point, they have a telescope maybe, they have large scope. All these things is inscribed in the temples. Even the temple also, the temple of Hathor in Karnak, all of this related to the astronomy. They have a strong relation. It shows us that the ancient Egyptian people developed themselves not only in the one science, if we're talking about architecture or the temple, no, they developed themselves in all kind of science they had to recommend with or to deal with. So a lot of things. Yes.
Why until this moment this kind of technology or science they are using did not unveil?
Because actually all this field is, we discovered the inscription or how to read the ancient Egyptian history recently. So it's maybe around 200 years only. So to read back what happened with the ancient Egyptian, because also we moved with a very attacked time. People come to our country and take a lot of sources with them outside. So the Egyptians themselves didn't have all the information. We discovering a lot of things.
So still we have things to
Yes.
discover more and more. We'll
Exactly.
find surprises from the old Egyptian people.
Exactly.
Rana, Ihab, Egyptologist, thank you very much for joining
you.
us today.
Thank you so much.
And please stay tuned for more coming up on Art Cruise.